twat is good YouTube? It's Casual Yu-Gi-Oh here. It's Chris coming at you guys today with my Mermail Atlantean deck profile for September 2018. So first thing I want to say is that obviously if you guys know me on this channel yet, or anyone who's starting to watch, I hate the link mechanic, so I'm not doing links in here, so that's a given. I just want to say, just like give a shout out to all the other Mermail players out there. You're not special because you go into like the Nightmare package, like, and be like, oh look, I can hand loop, so like they go into like Gumblar and stuff like that, like I can rip cards out of my opponent's hand. You're not special. If you haven't noticed, everyone's doing that. So if you can like knock off the fucking like retarded shit and just play the deck the way it was intended to be played, that would be great. So this is my, I don't know what you would call it, altered Mermail deck profile, but yeah, let's get into it. You play 3 Neptibus. So Neptibus came out a little over 2 years ago. I wasn't playing this deck at that time. I think I picked this deck up like fall of 2016, around there, somewhere like that. But yeah, Neptibus is basically how everything gets going. He's your preferred, like what you would want to use your normal summon on. He can be special summon though, but his effect is basically you can send an Atlantean from your deck to the graveyard to add an Atlantean from deck to hand, and then if he's sent to the graveyard to activate a Water Monster's effect, you can target an Atlantean in the graveyard, I think other than himself, and special summon it. So, and his effects are like a hard once per turn. So, but yeah, Neptibus is great. And then the package that I threw in here like a month ago, and it's working pretty well. Triple Nimble Angler to go along with the triple Nimble Manta. So basically what you do with this is you can pitch the Angler off your Mermail cards, and if the Angler is sent to the graveyard from the hand or deck, I believe, you can special summon a Nimble monster other than Nimble Angler from your deck. So you just summon out Nimble Manta, and then if Nimble Manta is sent to the graveyard from the field, you can, I think it says like to activate an effect or something like that, by a card effect, you can special summon any more copies of this that you want. So basically what you do is you pitch him, you summon Nimble Manta, and then you send Nimble Manta off of a Mermail monster, and then you summon 2 more copies. So that's basically all they're doing. They're good cards. They don't brick in your hand. The great thing about Mermails is that any water monster really isn't going to brick in your hand because you can always just pitch it. 3 Gen X Undyne. So some people only play like 2 of this card. I kind of like 3 just because I kind of like the balance or the synergy, I guess, of I like having my things. If I feel like it's a good card, I like to play it at 3. I like to see this card. This is another normal summon target, and that's basically all you're going to do with it, is just normal summon it. And its effect is you can send a water monster from your deck to the graveyard to add a Gen X controller from your deck to your hand. So let me find it real quick. We do play the 1 Gen X controller. You don't want to play more than 1 because you never want to see this card. And yeah, so basically you're usually just pitching an Atlantean to the graveyard to search, and it kind of gives you a +1 and some other things that you can do with it. But he's not as good as Neptibus, but he was kind of the old school way you would play the deck, but he's kind of had a resurgence lately. 3 Atlantean Dragoons. Now that this card is at 3, that's great. Atlantean Dragoons is he's kind of the fuel for the whole deck. He's what everything is going off of. So Dragoon says that if he's sent to the graveyard to activate a Water Monster's effect, you can just add a Sea Serpent from your deck to your hand, and that's not a once per turn. So the only thing you can't add, I think, off his effect is another Atlantean Dragoon. So basically, as long as you're able to just keep sending him and pitching him, you can just do that. And then he has another effect which no one ever uses, but all face-up level 3 or lower Sea Serpent monsters can attack your opponent directly. It's an underrated effect that most people forget. I even forget it because it just never really happens a whole lot. But and he's a great-looking card. Sorry I don't have the ultis. Those are like ridiculously expensive. Ultis that I do have: Triple Warrior of Atlantis. Now, I don't. Some people may know where I'm going with this. Some people don't. Warrior of Atlantis. He just discard. You can discard him from your hand to the graveyard to search a Legendary Ocean. So we do play the 1 Legendary Ocean. So I haven't really been seeing where I'm putting them, but Legendary Ocean. The reason it's in there, I'll get to it a little bit later. But you need it for a few of the combos that I like to do, or a few of the plays. But he's not bad on his own as long as you have the Legendary Ocean, because if you need more water monsters in your graveyard to fuel things, you can just always discard him. So he's not bad, and he's not a bad beat stick either. He's got 1900. And then triple Mermail Abystius. So Abystius just says you can send, or you can basically pitch a water monster from your hand to the graveyard to special summon him. And that's considered a card effect, so if you pitch a Atlantean monster, its effect will go off. And then once it's summoned this way, you can add a level 4 lower Mermail monster from your deck to your hand. Basically, right now, the only Mermail I'm playing level 4 lower is the Mermail Bisnieri. She's out of Circuit Break from last year, so she's actually underrated. She's pretty good. I used to play more of the level 4 lower Mermails, like Pike and a few of the other ones. I don't really like the I can't remember all of them, like Abyss Gun or whatever. Like, I'm not a big fan of her. She's the one that, like, if she's discarded, you can, like, special summon a Mermail from your graveyard. The problem is that doesn't really happen a whole lot. I don't really discard other Mermail monsters. They're not really getting to the graveyard, so I don't understand why everyone thinks it's such a good card. Yeah, I don't know. There's a few other ones that are okay. You could always bump up the number of Mermail monsters you play. I understand that. There's Abyss Osha. She's not bad. But Abyss Nieri, she basically says that you can discard her from the hand, and then you can target a monster you control, and then you can basically you can blow up another monster either on your hand, in your hand, or on the field, and whatever the monster's attack is that you blew up goes to the monster that you targeted originally. So she's kind of just a hand trap that you can use to kind of power stuff up. It's also, if you blow something up by her effect, that's also considered being sent to the graveyard by a water monster's effect. So some cards get their effects that way, but yeah, I just play the one of right now. Like I said, if you have the room, if you don't want to play the Legendary Ocean stuff that I play, you can always bump up the number of level 4 lower Mermails. So basically your win condition of the deck is Mermail Abyss Megalo. He's the best one by far. Everyone knows that. When I first got into this deck 2 years ago, I saw like some profiles of people would only play 2 copies of this card, and that made absolutely no sense to me. Like, you want to see this card. If you see this card, that means you can search other things with your Dragoons. And a lot of times, you know, you want 2 of these on the field. He says that you can discard 2 other water monsters from your hand to special summon him, and then when he's summoned, you add an Abyss spell or trap card from your deck and add to your hand, and that's why we play the one Abyss Scale, the Mizuchi. Mizuchi just says if it's equipped to a Mermail monster, that monster gains 800, and then anytime a spell card is activated, that card just automatically gets negated. You don't have the option. So remember, the bad thing is this card could also negate your spell cards. That's why you shouldn't play too many of them. But it will negate, it won't destroy. So if, like, let's say your opponent plays a field spell that doesn't activate and do anything when it's played, this will negate it, but it doesn't destroy it. So the card will stay on the field. And then his other effect is you can send a water monster to from your field to the graveyard to give him a second attack, which is really great. It helps OTKs, and that's really what this deck is trying to do. One Atlantean Heavy Infantry. Some people play more than one copy of this card. I completely get it. I just like having room for other things. But if he's sent to the graveyard to activate a water monster's effect, target a face-up card your opponent controls and just pop it. And then if he's also on the field, if you do get to play him, he'll give you an additional normal summon of a Sea Serpent that's level 4 lower. That doesn't really happen a whole lot. I mean, you could use it that way. I just don't. I usually use my normal summons for other things, but you could do it. I don't know. I just like one of him. If you wanted to play more than one copy, I get it. One Deep Sea Diva. Obviously, if she was at more than one, you would play more than one of her because she's great. If she's normal summon, you can special summon a level 3 or lower Sea Serpent from your deck and put it on the field. So basically, you just normal summon this and go right into Neptibus. That's basically what you do. Yeah, I don't know. This is a card you would always want to see in your hand. Obviously, you don't get that option a lot, but one Atlantean Marksman. I don't have the ulti of this. It's like 30 bucks. I'm not going to spend that on this guy, but he basically is the same thing as Heavy Infantry, except when he's sent to the graveyard to activate a Water March effect, you can pop a set card. So he kind of just gives you the versatility. Some people play 2 Heavy Infantry and none of him. I kind of like the option, depending on what my opponent's got, because I can kind of like force them to activate something if I really want them to. His other effect is if he inflicts battle damage, you can special summon a level 4 or lower Atlantean, I think? Yeah. Atlantean Sea Serpent monster from your deck. So basically what people used to do is they would just attack directly. If they could attack directly with him, they just summon out Dragoons. But it doesn't really happen a whole lot. Now for the reason I play the Legendary Ocean. One Leviathan Dragon Daedalus and one Ocean Dragon Lord Neo Daedalus. So there we go. So he is a 7-star, and his effect is you can send a face-up Umi you control to the graveyard, which Legendary Ocean counts as Umi if it's on the field. And you send that to the graveyard, and then you can destroy all other cards on the field, I believe is what it does. Yeah. If you play your cards right, you're not actually going to use his effect. You're going to trip him to summon this guy, which is the better one. I have the old school print, so you're not going to be able to read it on there. If I get it close enough, you wouldn't be able to read it. But his effect basically says he can't be normal summoned or set. He has to be special summoned by tributing the original Leviathan Dragon. And then when he comes out, you can just send Umi to the graveyard, and then both players have to send all cards on both players' field and hand to the graveyard except him. So he'd be the only thing staying. So because the reason these are great in here is because they're Sea Serpents, so you can get them off Dragoons. So if you play your cards right, basically in order to get this whole combo, you either have to have Monster Reborn in your hand, or basically you need, because he's a level 7, so if you have Legendary Ocean, he'll go down to 6, and you need Legendary Ocean to do the whole thing. So if you have Legendary Ocean, you basically just need one monster that's already on the field that you contribute, which is not hard because you have so many free special summons. But yeah, and then basically once that's going, you can basically, if you're going first, you can make your opponent send all cards on their hand to the graveyard. Obviously, you'll send all your hand to the graveyard, but you'll have this thing as the beat stick, and then they get to top deck, and let's see what they got. But I think it's really cool, and I like that this is actually playable. These two guys are kind of the reason I wanted to get into this deck in the first place. This originally was just kind of like a water deck, a Sea Serpent deck, and then eventually it turned into Mermails and Atlanteans. Not proud of it, but it is what it is. One Poseidra, the Atlantean Dragon. I don't ever see any Mermail players playing this card. I really like it. After you do Neptibus the first time, and you do your Dragoons, because that's basically what you're going to be doing every time, if you get a Neptibus again, which happens, you'll get a Neptibus like the next turn. The problem is you kind of like will run out of like Atlantean cards. If you drew just one, you run out of Atlantean cards. So I like him. Plus, he's the best one that you can revive. So like if you send Neptibus to the graveyard to activate like Abyss Megalo's effect, and you can special summon Atlantean, it's really nice when you just summon a big 2800 beat stick that's also a level 7, and that helps you later on. But his effect is you contribute level 3 or lower monsters, 3 level 3 or lower monsters special summon from the hand or graveyard. I think I've done that once, and then when you do, return all spell and traps on the field of the hand, and if 3 or more cards are returned to the hand by this effect, all monsters your opponent currently controls lose 300 attack for each. That's like never going to happen. One Moulin Glacier, that's the last of the monsters. Moulin Glacier you have to run in this deck. I was really tempted. I didn't do it, but when this card shot up in price, I think it was like right before it got reprinted. Oh, when the Element Saber stuff came out, I was tempted to sell this card, but I didn't do it. But so Moulin Glacier is one of the best cards in the deck because of how easily searchable it is. He's a part of your mainstay combos, but if you have 5 water monsters in your graveyard and exactly 5, special summon him, and then he can just rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand. And obviously, if he leaves the field, just like all the other Elemental Lords, you get to skip the battle phase of your next turn, but usually there's not really going to be a next turn. You're either going to win right there, or you're going to lose. And for the spells, I play 3 Sekka's Light. So Sekka's Light, this card will probably come out of here whenever that Pot of Indulgence comes out that just got announced, because that's honestly a little bit better because I like to play a little heavier spell count. But for most Mermail players, I think Sekka's Light's great. If you have no spell and trap cards in your graveyard, you play this card, you draw 2 cards, and then you can banish this card from your graveyard on that same turn, and then shuffle a monster from your hand back in the deck and draw a new card. And then for this duel, you can't play any other spell cards. That's kind of the problem with this card, is I kept running into the fact that like I draw this card and I draw a few other spells, and I basically would have to pick between one or the other. I still think this card's great. It's just if you play any kind of spell cards at all, it kind of will just hinder it. One Monster Reborn, because you're sending so many cards to the graveyard anyway. Your choices of what you want to revive are great, especially if you have like the Ocean Dragon Lord Daedalus or whatever, and you want to reborn the Leviathan Dragon because you sent it. There's a lot of cool things you can do with that. 1 for 1, because 1 for 1 just equals your Neptibus, which is your combo starter, and what's what you really need. There's people that play Sekka's Light and they don't play 1 for 1 because they're afraid to run it. This card is worth, if you did draw both of them together, this card is worth it because it can win you a game. That's it for the main deck, and then the extra deck. 1 Tatsunoko. Tatsunoko is very important to the deck because if you do draw Deep Sea Diva and you special summon Neptibus and you do the Neptibus effect, you usually can set up for a Mulan Glacia play, but you just need 2 more water monsters in your graveyard. You need the Tatsunoko. And by the way, my entire extra deck is water. I wanted it to be that way, so don't hate me for it. It's just something I like to do. It makes the deck a little bit more challenging when you're trying to go into your extra deck. It's not really all that fun in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! When like everyone just plays the same extra deck cards. If you look at someone's extra deck today, more than half of their extra deck is identical to like every other deck. But yeah, Tatsunoko, most people don't even realize it's unaffected by monster effects. And then you can synchro by using a monster in your hand. Just one monster. You can't synchro using more than one out of your hand. But yeah, the Tatsunoko is really good for the deck. Kriston Quandax. This card is, I mean, I really don't go into this ever, but there was a combo back in the day. Pretty sure you could still do it. But you basically, if you normal summon the heavy infantry, and then, like, let's say go into Diva, or you summon Diva and then go into heavy infantry, and then use your normal summon again for, like, a Dragoons, then you can synchro into this, and then you'd overlay, go into a rank 4, and then the Dragoons would get its effect, and it was kind of a cool little thing that you could do. He could be taken out. I mean, I don't really just use him for much, but he basically would just be rank 4 fodder. But yeah, I don't really use him for much. Hydro Genex. This is just in case you had Genex controller with like a level 3 monster. You could go into this. And I think if he destroys a monster by battle, you gain life points equal to the attack of the monster you killed. Not really ever going to happen. I just kind of like it because I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what deck could make this card. I really don't know. Coral Dragon. Coral Dragon, discard a card, pop a card on the field, and then he's a 6-star tuner synchro, so that's kind of cool. And then if he's sent to the graveyard, I believe you just get the draw card. So Coral Dragon's a great card. Brainiac, but not actually Brainiac. Bryonic. You can discard any number of cards you want and send stuff back to the hand. He's underrated. I just don't make him a whole lot because 6 stars isn't really something you go into a whole lot. But yeah, you could discard your hand, and I believe those monsters do count if they're Atlanteans. Their effects, they will get their effects because it does count as activated by a water monster effect. So, and the artwork is really great. He looks amazing. I'm glad they brought him back like last year. One Gungnir. Gungnir, you do go into him a fairly decent amount because a lot of times you'll have Tatsunoko, and then you'll also have like a level 4 in your hand. So then you can go into Gungnir, and then Gungnir just, I believe it's you discard up to 2 cards, and then select the same number of cards on your opponent's field and blow them up. So Gungnir is actually pretty useful. And the fact that he's a level 7 actually does come in handy too, because sometimes you can go into rank 7 with him. One White Aura Whale. White Aura Whale, I think, is probably the best synchro monster in this. He's probably the best monster in this whole extra deck. If you can get him out, he could win you a game. He's that good. You want me to read all his effects? I suppose I will. So he just takes a water tuner and a non-tuner water. So basically, only water deck can make it. But if he's synchro summoned, you can destroy all your opponent's attacks as monsters. He can make 2 attacks a turn on monsters. If he attacks defense position, he does piercing. If he's destroyed by your opponent's battle or card effect instead of the graveyard, you just banish another water monster and special summon it back. And he's treated as a tuner. The fact that he's treated as a tuner, I'm sure you could do some wombo combo with that. I don't, but he basically can just keep coming back, and then like he just blows shit up and has piercing, can attack 2 monsters a turn. He's fucking ridiculous. And he's not hard to make. And then for the last synchro, we play Trish. You're not going to make this a whole lot, but if you could, I mean, Trish is always worth it, so I just wanted to have it in here for that. And then for the XYZs, you play 1 Cat Shark. Cat Shark you can do off your Nimble Anglers. Sadly, the Nimble Manta, I should say. The Nimble Mantas are not Aqua type. If they were, you would go into Totally Awesome, but they're not Aquas. So Cat Shark can kind of just, if the materials that you used for them are water, you can, I think, like double the attack and defensive like shit. And oh no, if the materials were originally water, he can't be destroyed by battle, which is kind of cool because he can just be a wall. 1 Super Quantal Mech Beast Grampulse. Grampulse can just pop back row. You're not really going to make this a whole lot. I used to have more ways to go into rank 3s. I don't really do it a whole lot anymore. I suppose if you had like Gen X Undyne and you special summoned, I don't know, something like Atlantean, like heavy infantry or marksman. That's about the only way I can think of. I don't know. We don't really do a whole lot of level 3s, but 1 number 47 Nightmare Shark. He can attack directly. That's basically it. And then for the rank 4s, Abyss Dweller. That'd be a staple because he can be at 2200 and stop your opponent. Silent Monarch, because he can just steal shit. Hope Venom Dragon Spider Shark, or Hope Woven, sorry, Hope Woven Dragon Spider Shark. This card looks amazing. I love the fact that it's in here. Don't make it a whole lot, but it is an option sometimes. Sometimes if a card is like, it can't be destroyed or blah, 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 you can go into this and kind of just reduce its attack, and he won't float, but he can special summon something else in its place, which that can be useful. The card is just a cool card. It's underrated because most people don't use it. And lastly, one Mermail Abyss Gaios. Abyss Gaios, I go into him fairly often if I have to. He's kind of your stall card. Like, if you weren't able to OTK, he's kind of like, okay, I'll play defensive. And you can just summon Abyss Gaios, and I believe if he has material, level 5 or higher monsters, they can't attack. And then once per turn during outplayer's turn, you can detach material and then, like, negate all monster effects of monsters that have lower attack than him. So, he's a cool-looking card. I wish they would come out with more Mermails that like look like him, that look like the, because he looks like a, you know, fucking, what's the guy's name? Poseidon? Yeah, he kind of looks like that. So I wish they'd come out with more support like that. That's it for the deck profile. There's so many different ways you can play Mermails and Atlanteans or any kind of water deck. I wish people would use their imagination a lot more and not just be like, they play the typical engine and then just run hand traps and that's all they do, because it's kind of boring. And then their extra deck is just link spam. Like I said, there's a lot of possibilities out there. Real quick, I want to say a few things. We haven't uploaded in a couple weeks on the channel, so we're going to try to upload a little bit more, be a little more frequent about it. You might see our faces here pretty soon. And lastly, there was a guy that was requesting a True King Dino version of my deck. Look, man, I looked into it, and I used to play a True King version where the True King was legal, and now that it's not, I really just don't think True Kings and Dinos can really go together and be all that effective, because you have to run a bunch of different monsters for attributes of dinosaurs that don't really fit with the deck naturally. I tried running Kaijus to fit the attributes that I needed for the True Kings. It just didn't really work out, man. So if the True King comes back, I'll definitely do it in a heartbeat, no problem. But like Diagram alone is good, but if the monsters I'm searching don't really have a good way to get special summoned out, I don't really think it's all that worth it. So I have a more updated version of the Dino build I'll come out with in like the next couple months, but yeah, sorry. Anyway, that's it. So this is Chris signing off.